So there was a clip on Instagram from Elsie Elrich, I believe is her actual Instagram account. I did a YouTube live stream on Donna Bowling's podcast with Elrich, or with Elsie, that's her name. And I think she's funny and talented, and she does a lot of really good videos on, really diving deep into like Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively and all of that stuff. And so she did a video she found this old interview from Blake Lively from A Simple Favor, not Another Simple Favor. Another Simple Favor is the sequel that's coming out this May, but the original film. And I guess there's this scene, and I remember watching this scene. And so it's this scene of Blake Lively and Henry Golding, who plays her love interest in the film. And she's grabbing him by, I mean, if you want to use the Trump reference, she's grabbing him right in the balls, grabbing him right in the coochie, right? And so I remember this scene because so Blake Lively, for those that haven't watched A Simple Favor, if you haven't watched A Simple Favor, then Blake Lively is this like powerful, I think she's like a marketing executive, and her husband is played by Henry Golding. Not Anna Wintour. Anna Kendrick is a blogger, a mommy blogger. And so her and Blake, their kids go to the same school. They end up becoming friends. Seemingly, Blake's character ends up disappearing, and it appears that she faked her own death, and she, was on the run trying to get away. I believe there was some sort of insurance fraud that they were trying to, or that she was trying to do to take care of her son and to take care of her husband because he was struggling financially. And so we find out that Blake Lively's character, spoiler alert, is not, because she faked her own death. She's still alive. So she ends up coming back and faces her husband, who was unaware of the fact that she faked her own death. And so she comes in scene him, and in scene Anna Kendrick's character and Henry Golding's character end up having some sort of a fling. They end up falling in love. And so Anna Kendrick ends up replacing Blake Lively as that motherly role. So Blake Lively comes back and is like, "You're not going to come and take my family. Like, that's wrong." And so in this moment, you see that she comes and she grabs Henry. She's like, "Ugh." She just goes up in there, she just grabs him by the balls. How imagine she tried to grab Justin Baldoni by the balls figuratively on the set of It Ends With Us. Seems to be a theme she likes to do. She loves to just hold men by their balls. Anyway, this has now resurfaced because Elrich shared a clip from, I believe it was like a director's cut interview where they were reviewing this scene. Paul Feig, who's the director of A Simple Favor, he was reviewing this scene where Blake grabs Henry, and they were kind of joking and laughing that this was not in the script. This was actually improvised. Now, if you hear Blake Lively's arguments, she very much is clear that on the set of It Ends With Us, a lot of the kissing, not the grabbing, right? Let's be clear. Justin Baldoni never grabbed her in any inappropriate way, but she was specific to the kissing and how the kissing was improvised. And Paul Feig, the director of A Simple Favor, even jokes in this clip about how he wanted Blake to grab him harder, because it was just so funny. Also worth noting, Henry Golding did do an interview, I believe it was like in 2018. He did an interview and talked about the film, talked about how, this was a closed set. And so there were certain standards and practices that were upheld on the set of A Simple Favor, which then prompted this response from Blake Lively's rep. So, in a statement to TMZ, Blake Lively's rep, in response to all of this, says Blake collaborated and reached agreement with the director and her co star before filming the scene. This is the entire point here, and that is what Mr. Baldoni did not do. The audio commentary reference clearly suggests that she made a creative suggestion, all agreed on it, and it was incorporated through the appropriate filmmaking process. Mr. Baldoni, on the other hand, who was Blake's boss as the director and producer on the film and the head of the studio, decided on his own without asking first that it was okay for him to bite and suck on Blake's lower lip, again, without advance notice or asking for consent during his... Wow, I didn't realize you had to ask for consent before kissing somebody in a kissing scene, during the scene in which he continued to improvise more kissing on each take. This is just one example of the many in Blake's lawsuit against Mr. Baldoni. The attempts to smear Blake have now come so full circle that they are even starting to prove her own point. Again, worth noting, Henry Golding has confirmed these details that this was on a closed set and this was, I guess, something that he was comfortable with. But I want to really hone in on some of the words that are used in this statement that Blake's rep gave to TMZ. Because it seems like they don't have an issue with the making out per se. The issue is with how Justin Baldoni chose to make out with her character, Lily Bloom. So biting and sucking on her lip. That's the big issue. Not that he grabbed her. He didn't grab her butt. He didn't grab up on her breast the way Ryan Reynolds has openly admitting to grabbing Olivia Wilde's breast when they were in their film together. He didn't say, "Ooh, your ass looks so yummy, Blake." Like none of that, right? He, God forbid, didn't grab her by the coochie the way she grabbed Henry Golding by the nuts. Their issue is with the biting and sucking of her lip. Which to me, if you're in a makeout scene and it's understood that you guys are going to be making out, sucking on each other's lips and nibbling on a lip, to me, doesn't seem unreasonable. It seems like a reasonable standard of something that would naturally happen when you're filming a scene where two of your love interests are making out. Like, what are they supposed to do? Closed mouth? They're supposed to kiss like this? Like, what? Like when she was saying the dancing montage, like they were just supposed to be dancing intimately. And I was like, what were they supposed to be doing the robot and they weren't allowed to touch? We are going to do a romantic scene and it just says dancing. So we're just going to do the robot, but we can't touch each other because we're doing the robot, you know? Seven Coke says, yet we have seen videos of her biting his lips. That is correct. We've seen footage from the set of her biting his lips. So she did the exact same thing. So even if you want to take out her behavior on the set of A Simple Favor, she did the same thing. Did she ask for consent to bite his lip ahead of time? Was that discussed with the intimacy coordinator? I'm sorry, but if you're making out in a scene and all parties are understanding that, okay, we're going to be making out on a scene, then why are we nitpicking exactly how the makeout is happening? Right? Again, he didn't grab her in an inappropriate way. They were filming a kissing scene where the characters who happen to be love interests, I want to remind everybody, this is Ryle and Lily. It's not Blake and Baldoni, right? But the other interesting piece in this statement as well is it says that Justin Baldoni improvised on each take, which number one, when your takes are never going to be exactly the same, which is why they often take multiple takes of a certain scene, right? Your body language, the way you deliver a line, like all of those things can change from scene to scene. CJ says, and Ryle in the book actually bites her a bunch. LOL, he calls himself a scorpion. Wow. There we go. More important context. I haven't read the book like Blake Lively, so I wouldn't know. But thank you, citizen journalist, for that. But so the interesting piece is in the statement, they say that he continued to improvise on each take, which tells me that Blake Lively clearly had an opportunity to speak up, right? We've seen her be very vocal before. We've seen footage from the set where she's directing Baldoni, where she's grabbing his hips and pulling his hips into her hips and telling her, you have to grab me like this, you have to hold me like this. And she's very much trying to direct the scene, right? She was able to insert herself into the editing room alone with Baldoni. I'm surprised she didn't claim that there was any harassment that happened there, but why would you be electively trying to insert yourself into the editing room alone with Mr. Baldoni when you consider him a sexual predator, as your husband has called him? Doesn't make a lot of sense. But when you're admitting that there were multiple takes that were happening and that, there was improv kissing in every scene, then at what point did you think you should interject? Right? Like, why? First of all, it was a close set. We know that because we have now seen the production schedule for those days, and it was very clearly a closed set. And we have no third party dispute to that. If there is somebody, I mean, Baldoni seems to be naming people left and right in his lawsuit and dropping all the text messages, where in her lawsuit, she's trying to keep everybody anonymous. Interesting choice. But so why wouldn't she, after the first take or even the second take, say, hey, I don't like the lip biting? Maybe she would know that Ryle does like to bite if she read the book, but we know she didn't read the book. But again, why not mention something there? We see that Blake Lively is not meek. She's not afraid to voice her opinion. She's not afraid to talk about anything, right? CJ says, notice now they're not using the dancing scene. Now it's this random lip biting scene. Exactly, because the dancing scene, I think, has already been debunked with the footage that was released, which was very conveniently spliced and chopped up and delivered in that Max documentary, that ID documentary that they did on this, which again, Popcorn Planet, Andy, he has a much well, I'm trusting that his storytelling will be much more honest. I haven't seen a cut of his documentary, but I know that I was in it, as was Donna Bowling and a number of other people, and I know that, they're trying to do their best to do their due diligence. I don't understand, They're playing Lily and Ryle. Maybe Lily doesn't like her lip being sucked on, which is fine, but, like, why not bring something up in the moment, right? Why wait until months later to then make this allegation? Imagine if after the fact, Henry Golding changed his mind and suddenly was like, "You know what? Now I feel violated by Blake grabbing my junk," which also, to me, feels like more of a violation than what Blake is claiming Baldoni did. Like, I would think Henry has more of a like, he was literally his private parts, his intimate area was specifically grabbed by Blake Lively. Her hand was on his junk. Very different from a kissing scene where, we took a creative liberty and sucked on your lip during a makeout scene. It's just wild. It's more of this rules for thee, but not for me type of behavior.